Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today we're going to be talking about something that's been in the news a lot lately, and that is brain drain in Nepal.
Hmm.
So basically what we're talking about is a lot of Nepali students and workers are seeking opportunities abroad. And we're going to kind of unpack that today and try to figure out, why this is happening and what this means for Nepal.
Yeah.
And one of the things we found in the research was that there's like a surprisingly huge number of Nepali students going abroad for school.
Yeah.
Like over 300,000 Nepali students are in universities all around the world, and that's not even counting people who go to India.
Yeah, that's right. And between 2018 and 2019 alone, over 63,000 students left to study abroad.
Oh,
So it's a
wow.
really significant number.
63,000, that's like taking, a good-sized city and just emptying it out. Everybody's going abroad.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a mass exodus of young people seeking opportunities elsewhere.
Yeah, and I mean, education is a good thing, right? It's
Right.
good to get an education, but it makes you wonder, with that many people leaving, what's going on, and where are they all going?
Well, a lot of them are going to Australia. And
Surely.
yeah, Australia's become a really popular destination.
What do you think is driving that?
One of the big things is that in Australia, students are allowed to work while they're studying. So
Totally.
that's a big draw for a lot of Nepali students who are looking for some financial independence and maybe to even, send some money back home to their families.
Yeah. That makes sense. And that kind of leads into one of the other things that we found in the research, and that was that only about 30% of those Nepali students are actually focused on their studies.
Right.
The majority of them are working while they're abroad. So
Yeah.
it begs the question, is it really about the education or is it more about the economic opportunity?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question to consider. And, it's great that students are able to work and support themselves, but it also raises concerns about whether they're actually getting the education they need to thrive in their chosen field. And what happens when they come back to Nepal? Are those skills going to be aligned with the needs of the Nepali job market?
Yeah.
Those are things we really need to think about.
And speaking of coming back to Nepal, our research showed that there really aren't a lot of government initiatives to encourage these skilled people to come back.
Right? It seems like a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
It's like Nepal's investing in these young people's educations, but then there's no system in place to really encourage them to come back and use those skills and knowledge to benefit the country.
Yeah, it's like a double loss for Nepal then.
Exactly.
And it's not just the students, right? Because we also found that there's a lot of labor migration too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Labor migration has been a part of Nepali history for centuries.
Right.
But what we're seeing today is migration on just a massive scale. I mean, according to what we've seen, there are Nepali workers in 172 different countries.
Wow. 172. That's almost every country in the world.
It is. And, it speaks to the resilience of the Nepali people. But it also shows just how limited the job opportunities are within Nepal itself.
Yeah.
People are leaving because they have to. They need to support themselves and their families. And they're looking for more than just any job. They want better pay stability, a chance to improve their lives.
So what kind of jobs are these Nepalists doing abroad?
Well, a lot of them end up in what we would call semi-skilled labor jobs, like construction factory work, domestic work.
Right.
These jobs might not be glamorous, but they provide a lifeline for a lot of people. They offer a way to make a better living.
And that's an important point, right? Because we talk about brain drain with the students, but there's this whole other side of it with the migrant workforce, and they're quietly powering economies all over the world, often under pretty tough conditions and with not a lot of support.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think it's important that we acknowledge the huge contributions these workers are making. I mean, their remittances, the money they send back home is a big part of what keeps a lot of families going. And it's also a significant boost to the Nepali economy.
Yeah, I get that, but that actually brings up another interesting point. When we were doing the research, we noticed that there really isn't any official tracking of Nepalists who are working in India because of that 1950 treaty between the two countries.
Hmm.
And so what does that mean for the data? Is it accurate?
Well, it means that the real number of Nepali migrants is probably a lot higher than what's officially recorded.
Oh, wow.
And that lack of data makes it a lot harder to create effective policies and support systems for these workers. It's like we're missing a big piece of the puzzle.
So we've got this situation where people are leaving Nepal for better opportunities, but they're often facing some pretty tough challenges and
Yeah.
not always getting the support they need. So what does this all mean for Nepal in the long run? How does this brain drain affect the country's future?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? And it's not just about losing skilled people right now. It's about what could be. Even if people want to come back to Nepal and contribute, there's no guarantee that they'll be able to find jobs that use their expertise or that pay them a decent wage.
So it's like a double loss for Nepal. They're
Exactly.
losing the people, and then they're not even set up to use the skills and knowledge that those people gained while they were away.
It's a real challenge for Nepal to figure out how to create a system that values and invests in the people who come back
Yeah.
without a clear way to reintegrate. It's hard to encourage people to return and help build up the country. And that just keeps the cycle of brain drain going.
So it sounds like addressing this problem means doing a lot of different things, like improving education, creating jobs, improving social safety nets, and even changing the culture.
I think you're right. It's not just about creating any jobs. It's about creating good jobs. Jobs that people find fulfilling, jobs that pay well and offer chances to grow and advance. It's about building a Nepal where people feel valued for their skills and what they contribute.
So ultimately, it's about creating a Nepal where people can stay and thrive and help build the country up.
Absolutely.
That's a great thought to leave us with for today, but we're not done yet. We're going to be back in part 2 to dive even deeper into this whole brain drain issue in Nepal.
I'm looking forward to it.
So make sure you tune back in for that. So for now, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in part 2.
See it.
It's complicated, right? Like we were saying, people are looking for something better, but it's not always easy. And our research actually pointed to a darker side of this whole thing, too.
Yeah,
Like it seems like a lot of Nepali migrants, especially women, are facing some pretty serious problems abroad, even exploitation.
that's true, unfortunately. The search for a better life can be risky, and for some Nepali migrants, those risks turn into some really difficult situations. And when you don't have a good support system, you become vulnerable. You can end up being taken advantage of by bad employers.
And in our research, we found some pretty heartbreaking stories, like
Right.
the Nepali embassy in Riyadh. They said they'd rescued like over 50 women in just 3 months.
Wow.
And these women had been through some really terrible stuff: physical abuse, sexual violence.
Those stories are really tough to hear,
Yeah.
and they remind us that there's a human cost to all of this.
Yeah.
And it's not just those extreme cases either.
Right.
A lot of migrants have to deal with things like not getting paid, being forced to work overtime, even having their passports taken away so they can't leave.
Wow.
It's like they get trapped in these terrible situations and they don't know what to do.
That's awful. And it seems like part of the problem is that there's not enough support from the government. Our
Yeah.
research showed that both the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs have been criticized for not doing enough to keep track of these people and make sure they have what they need.
That's a really important point.
Mm.
The government could be doing a lot more to be proactive about this. They need better ways to track what's happening so they can catch problems before they get too bad.
Yeah.
And they need to provide more support, like legal help, counseling services, things like that.
Right, to help people stand up for themselves and get out of bad situations.
Exactly.
So we've got this whole complicated situation, people leaving for better opportunities, but often facing serious challenges and not getting enough support. And it really makes you think, what does it all mean for Nepal in the long run? What does all this brain drain do to the country's future?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's not just about losing skilled people right now. It's about the potential that's being lost.
Right.
Even if people want to go back to Nepal and contribute, there's no guarantee they'll find the right opportunities.
Yeah.
Will they be able to find jobs that use their skills? Will they be able to earn a good living? It's tough.
So it's a double loss for Nepal.
Yeah.
They lose the people, and then they don't have a way to benefit from what those people learned while they were gone. Exactly. Nepal needs to figure out how to create a system that welcomes back its people and uses their skills and knowledge. If they can't do that, it's going to be hard to get people to return and help build the country up. And that just keeps the cycle of brain drain going.
It's like they need a whole new approach to this.
Yeah.
And it seems like it needs to be multifaceted. Like we need to think about education, job creation, social safety nets, even cultural shifts.
Absolutely. It's not just about creating jobs. It's about creating the right kinds of jobs. Jobs that are fulfilling, that pay well, and that offer room for growth and advancement. It's about making Nepal a place where people feel like they're valued for what they can do.
So ultimately, it's about making Nepal a place where people can build a good life for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's a really powerful thought. So we've got this whole complicated issue of brain drain, but you've also given us some hope that things can change.
I think there's always hope. But we're not quite done yet. We're going to come back for one more part to wrap up this whole discussion about brain drain in Nepal. So make sure you tune back in for that.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
It's definitely given me a lot to think about, and